Eminent domain has caused controversy for many years in America. Eminent domain is the government's power to take private property for public use. Such law is a concurrent power, meaning that both the state and federal government are allowed to use this law. Such right is granted by the Fifth Amendment. The Fifth Amendment states, "Nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation."
Eminent domain has been happening since the start of this country with the Indian Removal Act. President Andrew Jackson wanted to kick out all the Native Americans from their homes and start building and making Mississippi a part of America. The Senate passed the Indian Removal Act, which allowed the president to make removal treaties to move different Native American tribes from their territories and from their homes so that they wouldn't get hurt, and so that he could start making Mississippi a part of America. President Jackson actually made troops forcefully remove some Native Americans, move out of their homes. The Indians, of course, had a right to the land.
Robert Moses was born on December 18, 1888 in New Havens, Connecticut, and then moved with his family to New York City. Moses attended Yale University and was part of the swimming team there. At that point in his life, Moses was indecisive about his career. He graduated Yale in the year 1909 and was granted a master's degree in political science from Oxford University in the year 1911. He then got a PhD from Columbia University in 1914. Since then, Moses worked his way to those who held the most power in New York City. In the progress, he worked many different jobs that helped him lead to his success. Getting his first governmental job in 1913 at the New York City Municipal Research Bureau, he caught the attention of Billy Moskowitz through a proposal he made which did not go through. Stated by the National Park Service, U.S. Department of Interior, when Smith was elected governor of New York State in 1918, Mrs. Moskowitz recommended Moses just be given the job of chief of staff for a commission that was charged with recognizing the state's government. Later on, in 1924, Moses held the job of chairman for both Long Island Park Commission and State Council Park, in which he drafted their legalizations. Thanks to Fiorello LaGuardia, the new mayor of New York City at the time, he appointed Moses as chairman of the Triborough Bridge Authority, as well as commissioner of New York City Parks Department in 1920. Moses had a vision, the vision of New York City becoming a place where people came to work but not to live. He was always trying to get rid of the poor and disliked the concept of having mass transit in one of the greatest cities in the country as he saw it. He believed that the automobile would help New York grow, and he didn't want mass transit to ruin it. He kept the poor out by, as indicated in the power broker, Robert Moses III. Moses had a vision, the vision of New York City becoming a place where people came to work but not to live. He was always trying to get rid of the poor and disliked the concept of having mass transit in one of the greatest cities in the country as he saw it. He believed that the automobile would help New York City grow, and he didn't want mass transit to ruin it. He kept the poor out by, as indicated in the power broker Robert Moses and the Fall of New York, he kept buses out by building the bridges over the expressways too low for the buses to pass. In 1939, Moses announced he would build a bridge that would connect the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway and the Belt Parkway from South Brooklyn into Battery Park in Lower Manhattan and Governor's Island. This project would be the replacement of the originally planned Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, running the same way over the East River. This was known as the Battery Crossing. With 2 more lanes than the original 4-lane tunnel, the bridge would be able to transport more vehicles. This would help reduce upcoming traffic problems. According to a letter addressed to District Engineer C.L. Hall, written by Robert Moses and the Brooklyn Battery Bridge, Triborough Bridge Authority, bridges are always considered cheaper and faster to build. Another advantage that the bridge would have held over the tunnel is that it does not flood. In years to follow, the tunnels tend to flood during hurricanes. Despite all the good that the bridge would have brought, there were still many who were against the bridge for various reasons. One of the issues that were brought through this proposal was the effect that it would have on the Battery Park in Lower Manhattan. The Brooklyn Battery Bridge would have ran through the park. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt and his wife Eleanor Roosevelt disliked the idea of having the bridge going through the park and believed that the construction of the bridge would mean the destruction of the park. Moses planned on taking down the Fort Clinton National Landmark. The book indicates that not only does it destroy the fort, it will also be taking up a lot of space, for which will lead the project to take most of the park.
Brooklyn Heights has been admired for its architectural greatness and its spectacular view of Lower Manhattan. Undeniably, Brooklyn Heights has a particular beauty that is not quite like any other. The neighborhood of Brooklyn Heights was first placed at risk in 1940, when the master builder, Robert Moses, decided that he wanted to construct the Brooklyn and Queens Expressway through the center of Brooklyn Heights. The plan proposed consisted of a 6-lane highway that would go from Red Hook, continue along Hicks Street, through Cobble Hill, bend into Tillery Street, where it would go through the heart of Brooklyn Heights, and continue moving along Meeker Avenue. Robert Moses believed the automobile industry was the way of the future and would swing the meat axe if the need arose. About the proposal, they were shocked. The proposed plan would mean that the destruction of many homes owned by wealthy residents. Wealthy homeowners and the Brooklyn Heights Association got together to oppose such tyranny. The Brooklyn Heights Association was founded in 1910. Over the years, it accumulated experience as well as political connections with lawyers and professionals who were part of the board. They developed the Citizens Alternative Plan, which proposed a 3-decked highway that would still consist of 6 lanes. The first deck had 3 westbound lanes, the second deck had 3 eastbound lanes, while the top deck later became the Promenade, or Esplanade, as the Heights residents called it. Robert Moses was no fool, and he knew that his wealthy opponents had the influence of money. He accepted with the condition that the Promenade would be opened to the public.
The Verrazano Narrow Bridge was a very big deal in Brooklyn because it connected Long Island and the rest of New York together. The bridge was started on August 13, 1959, and was finished 5 years later on November 21, 1964. The bridge was named after the European explorer Giovanni de Verrazzano because he was the first European explorer to reach the New York Bay in 1512 on behalf of the French, and because of narrow waters underneath the bridge. Before the Verrazano Narrow Bridge was built, there was only one way to get from Long Island to the rest of New York, and that was taking the ferry. It was very unpredictable and made a lot of people late for work and/or school. The bridge was actually supposed to have started being built before it was. The mayor of New York, Fiero H. LaGuardia, actually wanted to start the construction of the Verrazano Narrow Bridge before it was built while World War II.
Most recently, the use of eminent domain was questioned when the developer Bruce C. Ratner first proposed the Atlantic Yards project in 2003. Real estate developer Bruce Ratner throughout the years had become known for his successful creations. He was described as one of the most prominent and polarizing figures of the real estate New York. May portrayed himself as a reluctant developer, but he will do what is necessary to get a deal done. It is that determination, as well as his ability of seeing retail potential on boroughs other than Manhattan, that has allowed his development proposals to be successful. He is well known for his private-public partnerships that have resulted in projects such as Metrotech Center and Atlantic Mall. His proposal for the Atlantic Yards project was explained in an article written by Kevin Baker. It required $4.9 billion, 22-acre residential, retail, and office complex, creating 10,000 permanent new jobs, and his proposal for the Atlantic Yards project quickly accumulated support not only from affluent people like Jay-Z and Bloomberg, but support from the state and city, which granted him with $305 million unsubsidized support under the Empire State Development Corporation. This allowed Ratner to use eminent domain to clear the area under the means of a blighted neighborhood.